And on the tackle, Calvin Murphy, number 14 for the Seahawks. Gain of 2 on that play for the Mounties, 2nd and 8. Ball at the Seahawks, 31.
You're on.
Am I on? Sorry for the technical difficulties, folks. Welcome into Hilmer Lodge Stadium in Walnut, California for another National Central Conference matchup between the Mount San Antonio College Mounties and the L.A. Harbor Seahawks. The Mounties took a quick lead on L.A. Harbor on an 11-yard touchdown scamper courtesy of Aaron Vaughns. We got 10:39 left to go in the opening quarter. 7-0 Mounties, and the Mounties looking for more. They have themselves one at the L.A. Harbor 24-yard line right now, and it's been a sloppy game so far, a plethora of penalties between the teams, and that's basically been what we've seen down on the field tonight, a mistake-riddled game between these two, and obviously the talent gap probably favors the Mount San Antonio College Mounties. You take a look at some of the numbers for L.A. Harbor so far this season. They allow 36.2 points per game, and they're only scoring 14.2 points per game. And if you can do your math, it's a 22-point margin. So this is a team that hasn't fared well all season long, although they did have a close loss last week on the road against El Camino, 30-22. But the Mounties looking to take it to L.A. Harbor like the majority of the teams in Southern California have. They lead 7-0 to the Mounties with 10:39 left to go. In the first quarter of action here on Spreaker.com's own National Sports. First and 10 for Mount SAC. They have it at the L.A. Harbor 24-yard line after a measurement proved that they were to that first down marker. 3 wide set. The lone back, Brandon Wilson, will get the carry here. Gets inside the 25-yard line, and he'll spin his way down to the 19 for a pickup of 5 on first down. Wilson doesn't see too many carries there in the backfield. He's usually in there just to block for guys like Aaron Vaughns and Omaris Tolbert, but he gets the carry there and picks up 4.5 on first down. Under 10 minutes left to go in the opening quarter. 7-0, the Mounties lead. On the Mountie Football Radio Network, Spreaker.com's own National Sports. 2nd and 6 for the Mounties inside the 20-yard line. Allo on a play action will dump it off near side of the field. This is Jericho Dyko inside the 10-yard line, and it'll pick up a Mountie first down. It'll be first and goal at the L.A. Harbor 8. So the Mounties very effectively able to move the football here to start the game as we welcome in the ever-so-flamboyant Brian Tabajay. How's it going?
Good. Good to be here, Chris.
It's always good to be here on the Mountie Football Radio Network. First and goal, just like that for the Mounties from the L.A. Harbor 8-yard line. They lead 7-0 here in the opening quarter, 9:25 left to go, and whistles blow. L.A. Harbor, they'll take their first charge timeout of the half. And let's talk a little bit about this matchup since we didn't have much of an intro. Had a couple of technical difficulties, but now we're on, and we're so happy that you could join us tonight here on Spreaker.com's own National Sports. Brian, this is a team, like I mentioned, they're losing on average by 22 points per game. I mean, it must be tough at this point in the season. You know you're really not playing for anything but pride at this point. How do you get motivated for a game, even against a top-ranked team like the Mounties?
Well, I mean, it is a pride thing right now, and no matter how you slice it up, it's been a difficult year for the Seahawks, unfortunately. They're 0-4 in conference and 1-7 overall under head coach Dean Dowdy. And it is his first year. He's also been part of the program here at L.A. Harbor. And for games like this, I mean, you really have no choice but to really step it up and see what your team can do and what they're made out of. So, it's been a little bit of a slow game because of the penalties and a lot of I was listening to the Aaron Vaughns touchdown, so that was nice to see that Vaughns is back on the board for the Mounties. But for the Seahawks, it's just, trying to stay in the game as long as possible.
Out of the timeout, first and goal for the Mounties. Handoff to Tolbert, and Tolbert able to break a couple of tackles and get all the way down inside the 5-yard line to the 3. Omaris Tolbert with some impressive runs to start off the night this evening, and he looked like a man possessed in the loss at Riverside last week. Had a solid game despite the loss for the Mounties.
Yeah, and I mentioned that last week when I saw the hole on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. Like the Mounties just wanted to play that game at a decent pace, and they did.
On a 2nd and goal, handoff. This is Tony Gates, the freshman, who tries to get a push from that big Mountie offensive line, but he's unable to cross the goal line. There's a late hit here as number 15 for LA Harbor, Faufuina Sidigata. Looks like he hit Gates after the play. Gates' helmet flew off, and he's going to have to come out for a play. Gates wants to stay in. He's fired up after a big hit, but meanwhile for the Mounties, it'll be 3rd and goal inside the 1-yard line of the LA Harbor Seahawks. Mounties lead 7-0 here early. 8:44 left to go, opening quarter.
Yeah, I was mentioning, Chris, last week at Riverside, that was a very tough loss, and unfortunately they couldn't avoid what they did earlier on in the season, which was lose a lead and ultimately lose the game after playing.
Both losses for the Mounties this year, they've had double-digit leads entering the 4th quarter.
It's got to be tough for this Mountie squad, and the defense has been so phenomenal all season long.
I agree. I mean, you might. I mean, obviously the win-loss record won't show it when you compare the Mounties to Long Beach and Riverside, who, by the way, are playing tonight. That's a pretty big game. We'll talk about that throughout the broadcast. But the Mounties got to feel like they're probably the best team in Southern California because they know they should have won those other 2 games that they lost.
Yeah, and I'll let you call this play before I get into what I'm about to say.
3rd and goal. Allo to keep himself, and he's into the end zone. Touchdown, Mounties.
Nice to see Justin Allo back in the end zone after last week had a rushing touchdown of his own over at RCC at Willock Stadium, and I think that was actually the last points they got in the game last week was the Allo rushing touchdown. But, Chris, you're mentioning, it was double-digit point lead, whether you're up by double digits or not. It is a lead period. Mm-hmm. So, unfortunately for the Mounties this season, they've come away with 2 very, very tough road losses to some top-quality teams.
Villarreal adds the P18. It's now 14-0 Mounties. 8:34 left to go, opening quarter. Glad you could join us tonight on the Mountie Football Radio Network on Spreaker.com's own national sports. We're going to get a live stream up of that Riverside Long Beach City College game. Major National Central Conference Championship implications going on at Veterans Memorial Stadium between RCC and LBCC. But here's the thing. As we talked about last week, the Mounties were playing for their playoff lives. Unable to get the win at Riverside. They're not out of it yet, but they don't control their own destiny. They're going to need some help from teams like Long Beach and Riverside to lose, vice versa. The big thing for LBCC to do, because the Mounties trail them in the point ranking index, the PRI, the Mounties trail them by 10. If LBCC loses by a decent amount tonight to RCC, and obviously Mount SAC can hold on to this 14-0 lead they have with 8:34 left to go in the opening quarter, the Mounties may just leapfrog the Vikings and find themselves in that final playoff spot.
Who knows, man? The difficult part is they have to rely on other teams to win and or lose.
Well, Darren Walker, the running back for LA Harbor, back deep to receive this kick, and he takes it across the 30-yard line to the 31, so that's where LA Harbor will start, trailing 14-0 here, opening quarter, 8:25 left to go. Walker seems to be the only bright spot on this LA Harbor offensive attack. He's a former product of St. John Bosco High School in Bellflower, California. He's a sophomore running back, 5'10", 200 pounds. Tough to bring down. He's 11th in the state in rushing. He's one of the better running backs in the state of California. It's just unfortunate for him that no quarterback on this team, Brian, is throwing for over 50% completion rate. That's the tough thing.
You know, it is tough. And for a team that looks pretty depleted, and I'm looking over at their sideline right now, and it looks like they're at a pretty...
Only 45 men on the LA Harbor roster as Walker will get the give here, and Walker taken down in the backfield for a loss of 2.
But you look at this LA Harbor team who is in a very tough division with Mount SAC, with Riverside, with Long Beach, that are just big physical teams, and it's shown against LA Harbor this season. They've had a pretty tough time in conference.
0-4 are the Seahawks in conference play. 1-7 overall on a 2nd and 12. Pitch out of the backfield. This is Waters to the far side of the field, and he's taken down at the 32 after a pickup of 4. Marquise Waters, the freshman wideout, 6'2", 190 out of Washington High School in L.A. If you're wondering where L.A. Harbor is, it's not in L.A., but it's very close. It's in Wilmington, California, border city of Carson, California, where our own Justin Allo is from. 3rd and 8 here for L.A. Harbor. They trail 14-0 here opening quarter, 7:18 left to go. C-Stitch will drop back to pass. He's pressured. He'll throw to the near side of the field, but it comes on a hop intended for Marquise Waters. Incomplete, and that's a 3-and-out for the L.A. Harbor offense. They will be forced to punt.
Good signs by the Mountie defense, and, continuing on to what they did last week over at RCC at Willox Stadium. Just looking comfortable right now. And if a team isn't throwing very effectively for the opposing team, you expect the Mounties defense to stand pat and just be stout all game long, and they've done it so far here early on in the first quarter.
Well, Aaron Vons will drop back to receive the punt for the Mounties. He'll catch it at his own 32-yard line, try to find some room to the near side of the field, but that is an excellent tackle. In there for L.A. Harbor was Franklin Gaylord, the freshman wideout, 5'11", 195 out of Mission Bay, San Diego. And Vons is taken down at his own 32, so that's a 5-yard loss on the punt return. And Brian, Aaron Vons, he had some trouble returning punts last week, nearly fumbled it once, and had negative yardage at the end of the day when it came to punt returns.
Yeah, and he doesn't look like he's 100% completely set when he's receiving these punts. And we saw that last week at Riverside, and some of those punts coming off of his chest. Fortunately, none for big turnovers, but something to look for is he tries to really get set before he receives that punt.
Mounties will start at their own 32, up 14-0. Handoff Omaris Tolbert, and Tolbert able to get back to the line of scrimmage, but that's all. L.A. Harbor in there to bring him down for no gain. 14-0 Mounties, 6:50 left to go first quarter from Hilmer Lodge. And Brian, this is the final regular season home game for the Mounties at Hilmer Lodge before it undergoes renovations in 2015.
Yay. It's going to look beautiful. And if you haven't seen anything of it, you go to the Mount San Antonio College athletics site and check out the flyover view, a computer flyover view that they generated, and it looks phenomenal.
Perhaps it'll be nice enough to attract an NFL team to the L.A. area?
Hey, if they do come, that's my team. I'm waiting for an NFL team.
Justin Allo completed out to the near side of the field to Antoine Anderson for a pickup of 8. It's now a 3rd and 2 for the Mounties at their own 41. 14-0 Mount SAC. 6:15 left to go opening quarter on a 3rd and 2. Allo going to drop back to throw. Fired to the near side of the field, and it's caught by Isaiah Manley. That'll be good enough for a Mountie first down into Seahawk territory to the 45. Move the chains for the Mounties. And in this game against a much weaker opponent, let's face it, the talent gap just very noticeable, as is the score here early on. 14-0 Mounties, 6:09 left to go opening quarter. The Mounties probably not going to use too many of the first stringers for a long period of time.
Yeah, I was just going to mention we saw Manley for the first time last week at Riverside, and it was nice to see him get some catches in that game as well.
Out of the backfield, Omaris Tolbert on a screen pass will get down to the 40-yard line for a pickup of 5. Tolbert, not a guy who catches the football too much, but he gains 5 there.
And I expect Allo to have a pretty productive game here after going last week, throwing 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 4 interceptions. So after a tough loss over at Willox Stadium, I expect him to bounce back big here at home.
On a 2nd and 5, another screen pass out of the backfield. This time it's Vons who gets inside the 45, 35, 30. Still on his feet down the near side of the field, and he's finally pushed out of bounds inside the 15 at the 10.
Aaron Vons made the L.A. Harbor Seahawk defense look silly on that run. As he tiptoed the sideline, he made 3 Seahawks miss, just zigzagging his way up the sideline there and producing a first down for the Mounties.
You'll do anything to use zigzag, won't you? It'll set up a 1st and goal for Mount SAC at the L.A. Harbor 10. The Mounties already lead 14-0, 5:22 left to go opening quarter. 4 wide set, the lone back, Omaris Tolbert. 2 aligned to each side of the field as far as the receivers go. The